My name is Kaczorowski, and I'm just finishing up my doctoral program at University at Buffalo in the field of special education. My main research focuses on students with learning disabilities and improving instructional practices. So there's kind of two main sides to that. One is looking at technology specifically, and what we can integrate in the classroom to help them, and also just the teacher preparation side of that. So what can we do to better prepare special education and general education teachers to improve their success? I started using Studiocode about 2 years ago when I was doing an internship for my school program. I hooked up with Studiocode and started a blog, coding software for educational research or just educational practices in general. So I started using it about 2 years ago and have been blogging ever since. I really am focusing on those observational behaviors that this software really has allowed me to capture in other ways besides just my perception of them. I can now measure those kinds of things. Not only am I looking at the behaviors, but I also like to document exactly, use my code windows more as an output, a presentation tool, not just an input tool. So I add a lot of things like I display timers, I display frequency counts, and the scripting actually allows you to change the color of buttons. So I've actually been playing around a lot with making graphs that kind of that are like live action graphs. As I'm coding, they'll graph like percentages of time and things like that. So scripting has become a big part of my code window development. My research really focuses on student engagement and work habits, and that's it. We know a lot in research that engagement is highly linked to student achievement, but what we've mostly looked at in terms of measurement of engagement has been like teacher surveys, student surveys, which are very subjective measures. They are teachers' perception of how engaged a student is. Using video coding software, I now can actually look at um, actual engagement, like time on task. I can look at, in my current research, I actually have used an over-the-shoulder camera view of the students engaging with an iPad tool I made. And I can actually code exactly what the students are pushing, how long they're spending in things, what supports they're using. So I get a much richer and objective view of student engagement. Well, definitely the scripting. I think that's really powerful. Being able to put labels inside codes is what actually makes a lot of my scripting possible. Even a teacher behavior like giving feedback to students, I can tag it as being specific versus non-specific, or positive versus negative, or corrective, I should say, in nature. So like being able to identify those bits of information so that you can go back to them later and say, let's pull up all the instances where it was positive feedback or specific feedback. I think that's really helpful. So the labels inside of there, and then using that scripting to call it out. I do actually, for my dissertation, I was looking a lot at student independence during that work period. So a lot of the scripting that I did in my code window, I realized I wanted to track from day to day. So instead of having to write down all the numbers and type them myself into like a spreadsheet like Excel, I opened up a statistics window, which is a feature of Studiocode, and I could actually just copy and paste those scripts right into the cells of that statistics window, and every single day just copy paste an entire column into Excel. It was much faster, and I didn't have to rework any of the scripts because they work the same way, whether in the code window or in the statistics window. I think now that I'll be shifting my research a little bit more toward the teacher preparation side of it, I'm seeing a real use for this transcription window in terms of just taking notes and writing what's going on in the videos to give feedback to other people. So I'm really seeing the video coding software as a reflection tool. So I can identify things teachers are doing well, they can identify things they're doing well, and we can both add comments and notes on them as we're reviewing them. I think my biggest aha moments is happen when I try to get too intricate with my code windows. That's something you can do at the end like when you kind of solidify that everything's working. But I know that sometimes I get really carried away. I activation and deactivation links and how everything's going to work. But then sometimes I don't think about one little thing. And if you spend all that time developing something without checking as you go, you now have just created hours of work fixing all these little buttons that I've created. So I think the biggest thing for me is just to take it one step at a time, keep your goals in mind, and always just have a video up on the side where you can check to make sure all your links are working the way you want them to be working. In terms of like qualitative, like those open coding, I've used that as well. Just kind of, I turn, instead of working on, I used to use just like a scrap piece of paper and I would start drawing some notes on there. I still do that a little bit, but as I'm watching videos, I kind of start out just viewing them. Studiocode lets you change the speed of videos too. So when you're looking for broad behaviors, speeding up your video definitely helps. And just writing down some of the themes, and I turn those themes into initial codes. And then I go back into those codes and and I'm saying, okay, how can I break this down? Basically, I'm looking to create a hierarchy by viewing my videos. And sometimes the code window comes out of that. I still think it's a little better. I mean, and people can say they're using a completely grounded theory, but everyone has some kind of preconceived notion. What are you looking for? And if you start with even one or two codes that are very broad, that helps with that first passing. And then you almost kind of create that hierarchy as you go. I think that's it. I mean, if people have more questions, I think a piece of advice for anyone using this is to just connect with other users. I've learned a lot just by watching what other people do, and it gives me a great idea. I know we had a small conference in Texas a few months ago, and it was awesome just to see what everyone else was doing and watching when someone would present, everyone would be writing notes down vigorously about how that could change their own research. So I think that's our goal anyway with this whole Tell Your Story project, is to really connect users and seeing the value and sharing these ideas, being very collaborative in nature. So hopefully people keep checking back at these interviews. You can check out my blog. I talk a lot about some of the different features, but that collaboration is very important.